Good evening. It's now 7:30, and we're going to have to come out of closed session. Go ahead.
I move the council reconvene in an open meeting and certify to the best of each member's knowledge that only lawful exempt public business matters were discussed and only public business matters as identified in the closed meeting motion were heard, discussed, or considered in the meeting.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilor Robertson. Thank you. Mr. Kessler?
Ms. Woods.
Aye.
Mr. Earwood.
Aye.
Ms. Edwards.
Aye.
Mr. Robertson.
Aye.
Mr. Holmes.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Darby.
Aye.
Mayor Claffey.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, with that, we're going to call the March 23rd meeting to order, and let's start out by doing the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Tonight's invocation moment of silence is brought to us by Councilor Robertson.
I plan on doing a Christian prayer, so any of those that would like to participate, please bow your heads. If you would not, you're more than welcome to leave or not participate. Our Heavenly Father, we simply ask that you be with each and every one of us tonight as we are here to do this city's business. We ask that you would grace us with your presence and your gloriful knowledge as we take on the decisions that will affect this city for many years and decades to come. We ask that you be with us later on as we have to go back into closed session and make some further choices. Dear Lord, we ask that you be with each and every council member and staff as we do this city's business. In the month to come, as we take a look at each line item, as we prepare our budget for the year to come, that we would do what is best for each and every citizen that we were elected to represent. Dear Lord, we ask now that you do bless each and every citizen of this great city, the city that we love to live in and the city that we call home. And now, dear Lord, we simply ask your grace and your blessing in each and every day. Amen.
Thank you. All right, that brings us to the mayor's report. This morning I attended an EDA meeting with, where's Mr. Vaughn?
Yes, sir.
No, I was just saying that I attended a meeting with you very early this morning. You've had a long day already. And I want to thank the staff of the whole city. There's been a lot of them in here tonight. And we appreciate all the hard work they do and all the service they give to us to make these meetings run. And this morning's EDA meeting had one important announcement. We will be having an open, informative session at the Blackburn Inn next Thursday night at 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. And it's in the Great Hall up there behind the Blackburn Inn. We had one of these a year ago. And it's a great opportunity to come and get brought up to date on the goings on, mainly of Staunton Crossing. But that's what we're here to talk about. And it's an effort to just be transparent. Allison Denby is the chair of the EDA, and she's been a big advocate of this program. And I thought last year's meeting went very well. And I urge everyone to come back out this year and get the update and keep informed, because the one thing that can really hurt this city more than anything is misinformation. So come on out and ask questions and find out what's going on as we attempt to solve the problems of Staunton Crossing. So that's all my report is. Let me ask for additional items by members of council.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Robertson.
Made an announcement earlier at the work session, and excited, really am. Councilman Alice Woods and myself, Councilwoman Alice Woods, to get the right thing, Councilwoman Alice Woods and myself are going to be holding a session at the Staunton Augusta Rescue Squad, basically on the topic of the assessments for real estate tax. We want to hear what the citizens want to tell us about that. It's going to be at Staunton Augusta Rescue Squad in their meeting room on March the 29th, which is next Wednesday, next Wednesday, from 6 until 8. So we invite you to come and just tell us what you're feeling about the proposed tax assessments, and anything about that topic. And so look forward to hearing from you.
Mark, can you please clarify for the listeners and those in attendance that you will just be interacting like
Right. This is only council lady, Miss Alice Woods, and myself. So it's only two council people. So it is not an official council meeting. We have to make that knowledgeable. And so, we're just simply going to be interacting and, listening. And if there's questions that we can answer, if we're able to answer, we're going to. Sometimes we may not be able, because this is simply a period where we're trying to gain knowledge, and no decisions about the budget have been made. That won't occur till the end of April, when we all say yay or nay on the budget. So like I said, it will be a period where we are there to listen, and if we can answer questions about what we know, we will.
Thank you. Other items from members of council?
Mayor Claffey, I attended on Wednesday, that was yesterday.
A long day already.
Yeah. I attended the DEI Commission meeting when they all came back together. For the last couple of months, their subcommittees have been meeting, so they have come back together as a whole. They are doing great work. They are gearing up for listening sessions from the community, and they are also gearing up to hear from businesses, which will be their business meet and greet, which is April 5th.
Yes.
At the Staunton Innovation Hub from
6 to 8.
6 to 8. They are doing great work, and if you are a business owner listening or in the room, they will also have a survey. They are asking to have those surveys filled out so they can gain more knowledge of what it is that you all would like to see and how it pertains to diversity, equity, and inclusion. So, thank you.
Thank you. Another comment?
Sure, Mayor Claffey, I would just like to share that I was at the school board meeting, the last school board meeting, and since my kids have graduated, I don't hear a lot about schools anymore, so I was excited to see one of our finest from Staunton High School, a young man named Malaya Cabell, who is a record-breaking long jumper. Mr. Cavill jumped 23 feet and a half. 20, just imagine that. And it was just very exciting to see him honored at that night at the school board meeting.
Very cool.
I got to celebrate those things.
Mr. Mayor, I had the opportunity last week to go to the Boys and Girls Club celebration of the Youth of the Year. There was Omer Foster, who won that. Got a chance to talk with him a little bit and meet him. And Ms. Woods and Ms. Edwards were also there. We crossed paths but discussed nothing. But Omer will go on to represent the Augusta Stanton Waynesboro Boys and Girls Club in national events as well with that and going forward. But he's a very promising young man. It was great to talk with him and learn more about their programs.
Very good. Thank you. Anyone else? Well, thank y'all. Everybody's been active here. It brings us to the approval of minutes. We'll start out with the special meeting of the February 28th and March 1st. That was the retreat we had. Did anybody have a motion?
Mayor Claffey.
Councilor Holmes?
I move to approve the special or the retreat meeting minutes as presented. Is that fine?
That's great. Motion has been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Roberts. All right, now how about Mr. Kester?
Ms. Woods,
Aye.
Mr. Airwood, aye. Ms. Edwards,
Aye.
Mr. Holmes,
Aye.
Mr. Robertson,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Darby,
Aye.
Mayor Claffey.
Aye.
Motion carries.
And that brings us to the approval of minutes for the work session and regular meeting of March 9th, 2023.
Mayor Claffey.
Councilor Holmes?
I move to approve the work session agenda and regular meeting agenda as presented, or the regular meeting agenda as presented.
For the minutes, the minutes from the.
Motion has been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Robertson. Mr. Kester?
Mr. Holmes,
Aye.
Ms. Edwards,
Aye.
Mr. Airwood, aye. Mr. Robertson,
Aye.
Ms. Woods,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Darby,
Aye.
Mayor Claffey.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right. Thank you. Now we have made it to the regular meeting, and tonight we're going to start out with a public hearing of the effective real property tax rate increase. And in a moment, I'm going to open it up in a public hearing. It is a time the council sets aside to hear from citizens and others about a specific topic. We ask that you please give your name, your address, and then keep your remarks at 5 minutes or less. When you reach the 5-minute time limit, I will let you know that your time has expired. For our Zoom participants, please raise your hand now if you wish to speak on a particular public hearing. If you raise your hand during the public hearing, you will also be able to raise your hand during the council, at the end of the council meeting, during matters from the public. Once everyone who wishes to speak has had an opportunity, I will then bang the gavel to close the public hearing. I will now open the public hearing.
Mayor Claffey, I'm sorry, do you want somebody to introduce this item first? Or
Please do so.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but Ms. Moyers, let's have a quick introduction and then we can open up the public
All
hearing,
right.
if that's okay. Thank you.
Good evening.
Haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, it's been a little bit. So tonight we're here to conduct the public hearing, setting the 2023 real estate tax rate. As we reported in the work session, state statute requires the locality to advertise an equalized tax rate if in a year of assessment, reassessment, valuation exceeds 1% of the prior year's assessment value. It also requires the locality to advertise a public hearing at least 30 days in advance of the hearing date in the local newspaper. The ad was published in the newsletter on February 21st, 2023. In addition, the public hearing on the tax rate cannot occur the same day as the public hearing for the budget. As you're aware, the public hearing for the tax rate is this evening, and the public hearing for the budget is scheduled for April 13th, 2023. The advertisement for the public hearing must contain the following 4 things. The ad must include the percentage of the assessment increase, which this year equals 25.2%. It needs to state the lower tax rate to offset the increase of the assessment, which this year equals 74 cents. The advertisement needs to state the effective rate increase, which is the difference between the equalized rate and the advertised rate. This year, that equals 18 cents per $100 of assessed value. 92 cents is the current rate less the equalized rate of 74 cents is how you get to the 18 cents, which is a 19.3% increase. And finally, the proposed total budget increase must be stated in the advertisement, which in this case, we have advertised the ceiling of 6.9% in the general fund budget. The 92-cent real estate tax rate and the general fund percentage increase of 6.9% represents ceilings. And council may lower but not exceed these rates in ratios as advertised. Council, as you stated, is not scheduled to vote on this until April 27, 2023.
If I may add, for those who did not hear the budget presentation earlier, the proposed rate in my proposed budget is 89 cents, which is 3 cents less than the current rate.
All right, well, in that case, I'm ready to open up the public hearing. Would anyone like to speak? Come on, one at a time, come on up.
Good afternoon. It's Ken Schaffner. I've got property down off of Greenwood and Lancelot Lane. I received, now I heard you said it was going down to 25%, you said? Maybe I read this wrong, because I received these two assessment bills coming up for 31%.
That was the average. 25.2 was the average, sir.
Okay. Well, here's my complaint on this. In the last, from 15 to 23, I show a 54% increase in taxes, okay, on this. And I got this here. So I understand that the city works off of income tax, property tax, all these kind of taxes. But I sat in the earlier meeting, and if we're showing a deficit of every year of almost $10 million, I just don't understand where this is going to end. For example, you have personal property tax, real estate, machine tool tax, sales tax, et cetera, and the list goes on. So when I buy something, say 10 years ago for, say, $100,000, I'm just throwing a number out there, and my neighbor buys something today for $300,000, I'm going to get penalized because he bought something for $300,000. However, you have assessments that raise taxes, and I understand that. You have, or not yet, I understand that, but you have, when somebody pulls a permit, that's an assessment, that raises taxes. You buy or sell a piece of property, that raises taxes. You have, I've seen the population double since I moved here 6 years ago, and so that increases taxes several millions of dollars. Okay, I went on the website, and either I read this wrong or I have no idea, but last year, City of Staunton took in $24.2 million in taxes. Now, the proposed budget for taxes this year was 69. I mean, that's immense. So I don't understand that. I just don't understand those numbers, is why I'm being penalized for somebody that's coming into the area and buying something now. Yes, I understand. Somebody comes in and says, hey, by God, your house is approved, and it raised property tax. But just enhancing my property shouldn't bring my taxes up like that. And I shouldn't be penalized because my neighbor paid $640,000 for his house when I paid $300,000 for mine. No more than the guy who lives in the house next door who's been there for 40 years, and he paid $100,000 or $75,000 that he should get hammered for the same amount. You know, I have renters who I won't even raise their rent because they're elderly, and you know that's something that I'm going to absorb, and I get it because they take care of places like it was theirs. But there's got to be another problem or another fix to this situation, Because how will anybody be able to buy a house and keep up with the taxes? I mean, it's incredible. I mean, you've got 54%, and then what's gonna happen in 2 more years? It's gonna go up another 20? I mean, geez, there's gotta be some kind of leverage somewhere. I mean, you're looking at $225 a square foot here, but you go 4 hours away and you're paying $87 to $150 a square foot over in North Carolina, and the tax rate's half of what it is here. I mean, I like it here, but Jesus, there's gotta be a differential. Anyways, that's all I have to say on that. It's just, I just don't think it's right that I'm paying, because his house, he bought his house newer than mine, I'm paying his tax any more than the guy who's lived in his house 30 years. He has to pay my tax. I just don't see, because these numbers aren't lying. And if this city's in a deficit every year, there's a leak somewhere in the dike. And just, patching it is not gonna fix it. The spending has just gotta stop. There's gotta be a fix somewhere. Anyways, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Kester? No, sir.
My name's Mark Sims, short and sweet. I've lived in Staunton for 36 years. I've been through numerous reassessments and taxes being adjusted. Up until this time, I have never seen the taxes adjusted appropriately. They love that 92 cents. But we've never had a 30% increase in our real estate values. I'm sure I'm like a lot of people in this room, we're not expecting our incomes to come up 30% this year. It's just not gonna happen. And our costs are soaring with food and gas and all the rest of that. It's time for the Staunton City Council to step back, maybe economize a little. 89-cent tax rate is an insult to every citizen here. Put it down in the upper 70s if you have to, if you gotta raise rates, but you've gotta stop spending so much money. That's short and sweet.
Thank you.
Mr. Kester? No, sir. Anyone else like to speak?
Hello, my name is Pete Center. My wife Ann and I live in 1810 Spring Hill Road. I've been here for 4 years. First of all, thank all of you for your service to the city. I know it's not easy. Our taxes went up by 1/3 with this past assessment. We're on a fixed income. We're a blue collar family. We can afford to live here now, but if it keeps going up, we'll probably have to move. And I think are you spending 1/3 more money? I don't think so. So I think we have to be some adjustments here when the values go up. Some kind of adjustment will have to be made so the taxes don't go proportionate to those values, because values go up and then go down, and it just it's extreme. If you figure out a method of doing it and raising it at a reasonable rate, that would be far better. But the way things are going, the increases, we just can't afford to live here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Hey, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name's Jimmy Tilborn. I own and live at 1816 Spring Hill Road. Didn't know my neighbors were here. But anyway, I'm going to speak against this thing that y'all are thinking about doing for a lot of good reasons. One, I'd like to point out you're going to have a problem with optics come campaign time. As I remember, this council has been working on, let's get some good housing in here. Let's make it affordable for people to live here. You have some developers that are going to get some tax exemptions for putting in property. But at the same time, you're telling your constituents, your citizens, but we're going to charge you more to live here. My assessment went up 32% way over the average. There's a lot more people at the higher rate. And there's some problems with that. When you raise rates, when you charge more to live, you are selling a product. Live in the city of Staunton. That's the product you sell. It's going to cost you this much, but we're going to offer you less. You've got a problem with your recycling. You've raised the trash rate. You've reduced the recycling across the city. You're thinking about charging people for their size and type and number of trash cans. So we're telling you it's going to cost more to live here, but we're going to take away the goods and services we provide. That, if I was running against all of you all, I would probably make that a campaign platform. So it's very incongruent to charge people more and give less. That's a bad business model. You need to focus on the equity rate. I know the city manager would love to have more money. How did she know she was going to be able to ask for more money this year? 89 cents doesn't cut it. 92 cents was, you have to focus on the equitable rate. I got 2 minutes to talk about that. It has to go back to the equitable rate because my house is not worth $400,000. This assessment was made when the real estate market was peaking. You couldn't list a house for a day and it was sold for 40% more than it was worth. Well, that fell off the mark. That fell 2 months ago. In case you haven't been watching the economics of the news and things are going on. So you're using an assessment. In fact, I got the floor, right? Could I make a motion you just vacate the assessment? You don't have to accept it. You have to do it by the code. You don't have to accept it. You need to focus on that 74-cent rate. You need to remember while you're sitting up there, it's for us. It's because we want to live here. But I can't live here every year. I got to pay more and more and more and get less and less and less from the services. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Kester,
No, sir.
come in, sir.
Thank you for being here. You're gonna have to bear with me, okay? My name's Timothy Edward Kreider. I live on 808 High Street, which is the corner of High and Fraser. I spent 37 years in the military. I'm currently 90% disabled rate. I'm on a budget plan. My question comes down to, what am I getting for this increase? When I come in and ask for curbs to keep the water from rolling down the hill into my yard, I get told that I'm being put on the list, which really doesn't exist. When I ask about sidewalks, which in the future I'm going to need an ADA probably driveway. If you look on my side of the road, I'm right up by the library. There's sidewalks all the way up, and then they stop. I go to the corner, so I'm not getting sidewalks. When I ask, is a tree on my property or on the city's property, I've yet to get somebody to come out and tell me where the property line is so that I can decide whether or not I need to trim it that's going in the road, or the horticulturist, whoever is going to come and actually trim it, because it's not in the electrical lines. It's, it's over phone lines. So again, what am I getting for this? So I do ask, if you're going to continue with your budget proposal for the increase, then I would ask you to also consider decreasing the tax exemption for disabled veterans. The state has you at 100%, brings you over. I'd ask you to bring it down to 90%. Only seems fair if one's going to go one way, the other would go another way. So, now I have 3 minutes and 20 seconds to tell you about myself, because I'm not going away. That's Jimmy. We served together in the military, and we know each other, and I would like to thank you for being here. I've lived in Staunton since 1996. Meanwhile, I've been serving, going and coming back. I have a master's in public administration. I've been to the Virginia training for Planning Commission and Board of Zoning Appeals. When I was actually working in the field, the Code of Virginia said a public meeting was 2 or more. Has that changed?
for Freedom of Information Act? Is a public meeting 2 or more in the Code of Virginia, or is it what you're telling me, more than 2? I don't think so. I don't know. I'm just asking because it's been a long time since I've dealt with public administration efforts. But I am interested. I know that if you've got a budget, and everybody's got issues. I will put this out. A officer of the military who has a responsibility for a country is paid less than individuals that work for employees of the city from, what, 27,000 people? You know, how many employees is that? A battalion commander is in hundreds to thousands, and they're not receiving the same amount of money. So, yes, maybe you want good people, but maybe you need to grow them from within. 1 minute, 49 seconds. Thank you for being here. You're being paid, you're getting a stipend, so it's not that bad. And it's nice to meet my neighbors. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, sir.
Minute 32, the next guy.
Mr. Kessler? No, sir. Anyone else wish?
Hi, my name's Gretchen Bishop and I live on Institute Street. And thank you for this opportunity to comment on the tax rate. I really just wanted to give you some numbers. I did what Mr. Claffey said he did during the work session. I took a few housing prices and figured out what the reduction would be if the tax rate was lowered from the 0.92 right now. If you have a $100,000 house and you were taxed at the 92-cent rate, you would be paying $920. If you went down to the 89, woo, you would save $30 on your taxes. If you went down to 85, you would save $70. Now, if you had a house that was assessed at $200,000, you'd be paying $1,840 at the 92-cent rate. If you went down to 89, you would be saving $60. If you went down to 85, you would save $140. And if you're fortunate enough to live in a house worth $300,000, you'd be paying $27.60 on your annual taxes. If you, that's at the 92 cent. If you went down to 89, you'd save $90. If you went down to 85, you'd save actually $210. I know you have a difficult job, and what you have to try to do is find the sweet spot, really. I don't know what that is, but what services can you continue to give us and maintain rather than reduce is a really important question without driving people out of the city because they can't afford to live here, even as renters, because as was pointed out, if you're renting and your landlord's taxes go up, so will your rent. So I don't envy you, but I ask you to really work hard to find that sweet spot so that you're not shorting people of services, but you're not burdening them with taxes that really will put some people over the line. My taxes have gone up. I bought my house in 2019. My houses have gone up over $1,000 based on your current assessment. That my house went up 36% the last assessment. It went up 26% this assessment. You know, I'm really fortunate in that it's not going to drive me out. But there are so many people that are not in that situation. So you really need to think about every person that lives here, because I don't want to live in a city of people that can only afford a lot of taxes. I want to live in a diverse city, just like I'm sure all of you do. So good luck with your deliberations, and I really do hope that you try very hard to find the optimal middle ground there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. No, sir. Would anyone else like to speak?
My name is Susan Boyd. I bought my house on Foremost Avenue just over a year ago at the height of the bidding war madness real estate nonsense. Since then, I have not added the Taj Mahal wing. I have not done anything extraordinary with the house, and yet my taxes have gone up almost 30%. I did a lot of research before moving here. My husband and I moved here because it was more affordable. I come from Alexandria. I know a lot about taxes. And suddenly it's not. We are retired. We came here for a quality of life and a diversity, as some other people have stated. And I'm unable to fathom the methodology. You don't appear to have any sort of tax relief for senior citizens here. And I called the Office for Assessments and asked, why have the taxes on my property been pretty much level for many, many years, and now they're spiking 30%. And I said, and I was given the answer, well, we have to reassess this every 2 years. Got that, I can read the code. I was asking about the methodology. I found them spectacularly unhelpful. I also echo some of the previous comments that there are far fewer services in Staunton than there are in Alexandria. And I just urge you, as fellow speakers have urged you, to consider the whole problem before going forward with this. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Anyone else? No second time.
Sorry.
You can come later during
Talk
matters
after.
of the vote.
Okay. Good evening. I'm Wilson Fulber. I live at 318 Woodmont Drive here in the city. And all of you folks know who I am. You know that I've sold real estate here for a long time, to be exact, 42 years. So I'm on the front lines dealing with people who are considering moving to the city of Staunton, or whether they're going to move to Waynesboro or Augusta County. Staunton has a bad reputation, unfortunately. Staunton's my birthplace, I love it very much, but it has a bad reputation when it comes to taxes. And so many people choose not to live in the city because they do not feel like the money that they would spend in taxes is worthy of the services that they get. So it is an issue. I can tell you, and if my real estate peers were here, they would tell you that they will, if we have a newcomer that comes to the area and they can live in Staunton, Waynesboro, or Augusta County, they will try to convince their client to move to Augusta County because of the tax rate, and will tell them, do not look in Staunton, the taxes are too high. This is a fact. I've dealt with it for over 40 years. I'm concerned about the proposed 89 cents. I don't think it's enough. People in the city are tired of paying so much in taxes. Understand about the budget, something's got to give. I've been coming to council meetings. People want. They want money. This is going to cost $10 million. This is going to cost this amount of money and so forth. But we have to reach a point where we say, we've got to take a break from spending and continuing this increase, because I want people to move to my city. I want people to move here and be able to afford to live here. I do not want to have to receive the calls where a widowed woman, husband and herself lived in the city for 40 or 50 years and paid their real estate taxes every single year. Now he's gone. She doesn't have the Social Security benefits, and she can't afford to live here anymore because of the taxes. You know, I'm not after that kind of business where someone has to move from this city because the taxes are so high. Something has to be done. So I encourage you to take a very hard look at this. And the reduction needs to be less, it needs to be reduced more than 89 cents. It's too much. Based on this average for the assessments, I understand the real estate market went crazy the last 2 years. And prices are still going up in our area because of the demand. There are still people wanting to live in our beautiful city. And some of them coming from other areas have cash to pay. And it is driving up prices. It's continuing to drive up prices. This is a problem. But what about the people who've lived here their entire lives and are seriously, I've talked to so many people that are seriously considering selling their property in the city of Staunton and saying, I'm tired of this. I've had enough. I'm going to go elsewhere. And that will create a problem with our real estate market. Taxes will still be assessed on whomever owns it, but I don't want to see an exodus from our beautiful city. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, sir. Last call. Anyone else wish to speak?
Mayor Clappy, I do have someone.
All right. Caller, go ahead.
Yes, hello, my name's Kevin Hettinger. I live on 22 South Coulter Street, and I appreciate the opportunity to have to talk about this today, especially in regard to the discussion that was earlier, the announcement about the assessments by Councilman Richardson and Councilwoman Woods, because that I think is a little bit of an issue as well that I think everybody has already identified. My change in my taxes was over 28%, almost 29%. However, my assessment itself went up $60,000. And the thing that I can't figure out about this is I had a loan that was taken out in August of 2022, and the appraisal came back basically at the assessed rate of $220,000. So I think that the methodology that the assessor is taking really needs to be looked at, because that seems to be out of whack, to put it mildly. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say. That other than the fact, I would like to know again, where is the location of that meeting going to be? On the 28th, I believe?
Staunton Augusta Rescue Squad, right below the high school, Staunton High, on North Coulter Street.
Very good. All right, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Wednesday, the 29th.
Anyone else with this?
No, sir.
Anyone else in the audience? In the public hearing. Now, thank you for your comments, and please understand that the process has just started. Tonight, when we arrived, we got the proposed budget. The assessments go out first, and the assessments go out in January. The tax rate has not been determined and will not be determined for 4 more weeks. We will continue to have work sessions as we work our way through the proposed budget, look for things that we can possibly change or spread out or tone down so that our expenses could be controlled. And we'll also look at revenues to analyze them to make sure that they're at their maximum. But we'll continue to do our due diligence on this for the next 5 weeks. And then we will set the tax rate, and your tax bill will be prepared in May based on the rate that we determined the last of April. So there is time. We are just now getting started on this whole process. That's why we're having public hearings, meetings. The whole point is to figure out what the population wants to try to answer your questions and to hear your concerns. So we're just getting started in the process. Please be patient with us. All right, this brings us to the introduction of an ordinance proposing a budget for fiscal year 2024. Ms. Bowe.
Mayor Claffey,
Yes.
if I may, we normally don't respond while people are speaking during a public hearing, but just to answer the individual's question, Freedom of Information Act, if public meeting is 3 or more individuals of this body.
Thank you. Ms. Bowe.
Yes, Mayor Claffey, thank you. Jesse Moyes, our CFO, will introduce this item. And again, this is just the introduction. This is not the final budget. Obviously the budget will change between now and April 27th. But you are just making a motion to approve the introduction of the budget and nothing more.
Correct. Welcome back.
All right, thank you. The FY24 budget ordinance totals $152,355,651 and consists of the following. General fund, $69,264,351. Debt service fund, $6,162,277. The CIP fund at 0, as that's currently been cut from the budget this year. Blue Ridge Court Services, $1,416,752. The water fund, $12,725,117. This includes approximately $9 million of capital improvements with the hopes that almost $4 million could be funded with grant funding. The sewer fund, $8,601,500, which includes $4.9 million for capital related funding, of which the city has already received notification that we'll get $4.55 million of grant funding for that. The parking fund at $449,340. Stormwater at $2,702,800, of which 2.1 of that is for capital related storm restoration projects. Environmental fund, $4,450,069, of which $1,090,140 is for capital, all of which relates to the regional landfill. Education fund, $40,360,196. Cafeteria fund, $2,180,173. Textbook fund, $1,020. School CIP fund, $425,000. School state operated programs, $2,598,076. This ordinance does not include any proposed utility or parking rate increases for FY24. This ordinance includes a real estate tax decrease of 3 cents, which lowers the rate from 92 per $100 assessed to 89 cents per $100 assessed. The equalized rate calculated as a result of the increase, as you know, is 74 cents per $100 assessed. There are no proposed changes to any other tax rates. Council is free to adjust the amendment as it sees fit. The city manager presented the proposed fiscal year 24 budget this evening as a work session. And additional budget work sessions are scheduled for April 6th, April 13th, which will be a joint meeting between City Council and schools. April 13th is also the night of the public hearing for the budget ordinance. April 20th is another budget work session. and hopefully the budget will be approved on April 27th. The city manager recommends the ordinance be introduced as presented.
All right, does anyone have any questions of Ms. Owens?
Well, we talked about a lot of the themes in the back, and I guess this is the time to kind of inform the citizens of what some of this money is going for. I mean, y'all maybe think that we really are just like spendthrifts and just throw your money away, but we don't. And the cost of doing business is, it's like everything else, it's gone up. I mean, everything costs us more. You know, as far as what we make, we don't make much as being on the council, but especially not for the headaches sometimes. But I'd just like to know that we really do look at every penny that we can and try not to spend your money unwisely. And I think that some of you think we're crazy, but it's not the case.
Mr. Blair, I just want to, do we officially need to read this motion to actually introduce it? Because we haven't done it yet.
No, you do not.
Okay.
You do not.
Any other questions of council for Jesse Moore?
Sharpen a pen, Jesse.
No comments at all? All right. A motion? Someone prepared to offer a motion?
Well, I mean, I will. Like I said, just remember, what I'm reading is the introduction. Legally, we have to introduce it so we can literally talk about it. So that's all this statement is. I move to introduce the fiscal year 2024 budget ordinance for the city of Staunton and to schedule a public hearing on the proposed ordinance during council's regular meeting on April 13th, 2023.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you,
Terry Holmes.
Mr. Kesker?
Ms. Woods,
Aye.
Ms. Edwards,
Aye.
Mr. Robertson,
Aye.
Mr. Holmes,
Aye.
Mr. Arrowood. Aye. Vice Mayor Darby,
Aye.
Mayor Claffey.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. All right, that brings us to item C, which is a consideration of revised council procedure memorandum. Ms. Bower.
I'll ask Mr. Blair to walk you through this item.
Good evening, Mayor Claffey and council. Before you, as you know, you had your retreat earlier this month and at the end of February. And at that time, there was a discussion about your council procedure memoranda. And what I've done in the briefing is incorporate the changes that were talked about. Just want to briefly go over the substantive changes. There are some minor changes, but the more substantive changes, you would be adding 3 new procedures. The first is your invocation procedure, and that procedure would, in effect, it sets for you the policy that complies with the U.S. Supreme Court rulings. So that becomes official policy. Really, there would be no change in the practice of what you do, but it sets the policy officially. The second new procedure would be concerning seconds. This is an issue that has come up since I've been in Staunton. It's come up in other bodies I've served. Effectively, it's your choice at this point, since you do have a charter provision, and at the retreat, you all indicated you wanted to have a second for anything to be considered. The final new procedure is the proclamation and recognition policy. Again, there are 5 levels of proclamations and recognitions. And I want to thank our city clerk, Mr. Kesker, for his assistance in writing that policy. To shift back to your existing procedures, Procedure 11 will be deleted. That procedure itself was very, I think, oddly worded an old procedure. It's been combined into a new procedure that simply states the city manager should exert fiscal oversight over outside agencies. I think that's more of a blanket statement from you all as your procedure. You want her to monitor your outside agency expenditures, whether they're capital or operating funds. Another policy change would be the public hearing process. As you know, and I think any council or board of supervisors, clearly when somebody has a land use proposal and they're the applicant, you sometimes have questions. We've sort of had this policy that's unclear about what, are they really just part of the 5-minute public hearing or not? This would make it clear they have 15 minutes they can present, and during that 15 minutes you ask them questions. They're not subject to a 5-minute, and what's also odd about that is technically, like we just saw there, if you follow the procedure for the 5 minutes, you're not technically supposed to ask the applicant questions if they're part of the public hearing. So this clears that up. It also clears up that somebody who appeals from the Historic Preservation Commission about a certificate of appropriateness would have 15 minutes to make a presentation to you. Two other substantive changes. One is concerning there's this odd provision that says if a citizen wanted to present to you, they go to the city manager and she makes the call. And she felt uncomfortable with that. So this procedure says if somebody would like to be on your agenda as a business item, and typically it would be a group, they need to come before you, matters from the public, and make that request. You all should make that decision, not the city manager, as to a business item that goes on the agenda from a citizen group. And then finally, it clears up in your budget, you do appropriate for council to attend Virginia Municipal League and Virginia First City events. This states if those items are appropriated in your budget, you don't need to have a separate vote by council for somebody to attend, say, a VML conference or at First Cities, they have committee meetings. So, happy to answer any questions, but again, try to practice fidelity to what you stated at your retreat.
Thank you. Do members of council have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Fleming. Thank you, Mr. Fleming.
We did decide to move the meetings up to 7, right?
It's the next one.
Okay.
Okay, so, all right, just dealing with the memorandum for procedures. I will now accept the motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move the Staunton City Council delete Council Procedure Memorandum number 11, adopt the proposed amendments to the Council Procedure Memoranda as presented, and adopt the new proposed Council Procedural Memoranda numbered 17, 18, and 19.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Woods. Mr. Kessler.
Mr. Holmes,
Aye.
Mr. Robertson,
Aye.
Ms. Edwards,
Aye.
Ms. Woods,
Aye.
Mr. Airwood. Aye. Vice Mayor Darby,
Aye.
Mayor Claffey.
Aye.
Motion carries.
And that brings us to item D, which is the consideration of a resolution amending the city council regular meeting time. Got to it, Terry.
Don Blair will look in and walk us through this item.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Very briefly, before you, you have a resolution. This would move your meeting time for your meetings, the regular meetings, to start from 7:30 back to 7 o'clock. It would be effective at your first regular meeting in May. That's because we will need to advertise the new meeting time. Happy to answer any questions.
I just want to make a statement that even though we're moving regular council meetings to 7, it also means our work sessions might get moved up too. So I
Just move them back.
possibility. So
It's just so that people wouldn't have to, if they want to speak at the end of the meeting, they don't have to be here so late. So, we're still gonna be working the same amount of time, so it makes it a lot easier for people who have constraints on their time. They don't wanna be here late.
Also want to point out, it's for the benefit of the staff, because the staff's day started this morning at their normal, regular, early hours. I was in here for an EDA meeting this morning, and the staff was all here, so it just stretches out their day to abnormally long. So that's why we're attempting to move it to an earlier time. All right. Someone.
Mayor Claffey. I
Councilman
move
Lawrence.
that city council adopt a resolution amending regular city council meeting times as presented.
Motion has been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Councilman Arrowood. Mr. Kester.
Mr. Holmes.
Aye.
Mr. Robertson. Aye. Ms. Edwards.
Aye.
Ms. Woods.
Aye.
Mr. Arrowood. Aye. Vice Mayor Darby.
Aye.
Mayor Claffey.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thanks, sir. All right, and that brings us to matters from the city manager, Ms. Beauregard.
I have a few things. First of all, the 2023 season of Shop and Dine Out starts on Friday, April 7th, and will run through Sunday, October 29th. So please remember that starting on Friday, April 7th, all vehicles will need to be removed from Beverly Street between Lewis and Market by no later than 4 p.m. Street signs will be put up telling you that you need to not park after 4 p.m. on Fridays, and they'll go up the week before Shop and Dine Out begins. Second item I have is the city of Staunton was named Tree City USA by the Arbor Day Foundation for the 27th year. And a proclamation celebrating Arbor Day will be presented to Parks and Recreation staff on April 27th at their council meeting. We have in town right now with us meeting planners from all over Virginia who will be in Staunton through tomorrow for the Virginia Society for Association Executives. And we hope they love their experience so much that they plan their future meetings here. And finally, I said this during the budget work session, but I realized several people in the room weren't there for that. The first budget work session is on April 6th at 5 p.m. right here in this room. And more information can be found about the budget on our website at www.ci.stanton.va.us/budget, but just go to our homepage and it'll be right there. You can also view a hard copy of the budget in the city manager's office on the 3rd floor of this building or in the library at the reference desk. So, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. All right, that brings us up to matters from the public. This part of City Council's agenda is entitled Matters from the Public. It is a time that council sets aside to hear from citizens and others about a wide variety of subjects. A copy of the Staunton City Council's Matters from the Public rules are available in paper form at the clerk's desk and online on the City of Staunton's webpage. You are asked to familiarize yourself with those rules before commenting. Please come to the podium or begin your call, identify yourself, and complete your remarks within 5 minutes. Would anyone like to speak under Matters from the Public? Please come.
Mayor Claffey and members of the council, I'm Maggie Reagan. I come to you this evening as your Commissioner of Revenue. And the reason I'm here is because I'd like to just remind folks who are listening here in the room and at home that my office does administer 2 tax relief programs. One of those programs is the tax relief for the elderly and or permanently disabled. That we are accepting applications into that program. We have approximately 275 residents that participate in that program on an annual basis. That is a program that is based on income and asset levels. It's authorized under the Code of Virginia. And a few months back, I came and asked you to raise the limits on that program, which you did at my behest, and the information about the program is available in my office down the hall in City Hall, or it is also available on my page on the website, the city website. And I'm happy to answer any questions that people might have here in the room this evening after the meeting. The second program that my office administers is tax relief for veterans who have a 100% permanent and total service-connected disability. That is also a program that's authorized through the General Assembly and is codified in the Constitution of Virginia. So it is not something that you have any options to make any adjustments to, but it is a program that I authorize, that I administer through my office, based on the parameters that were set by the General Assembly and that are codified at the state level. And if anybody has any questions, again, I'm happy to answer them after the meeting, or you can call me in my office or visit my website. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maggie, for the clarification. Mr. Kester, do we have anybody online?
No, sir.
All right. Please come.
Evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Dan Gunnels. I'm a relatively new citizen here in Staunton. Been here for about 4 years. And I come to Staunton with a law degree and a love for the area and its diversity. I have a background in housing, and I support a housing commission. I do not know whether or not, frankly, the redevelopment and housing authority, exactly, I know there's an opening, I don't know exactly what it does, but I think a housing commission, we may take a look at, might want to create one. I think one of the reasons I was able to stay in Staunton was because I bought a house. There was no rental properties that were livable, frankly. I almost moved to Richmond instead of staying in Staunton. But the only way I could do it was to buy a house. Now, of course, the house burned down 4 months later, and then, but I survived it during the pandemic. But at the end of the day, I think that we need affordable housing, both for single parents, people who are making minimum wage, young family who are trying to rent in order to then save to put down a down payment for their first homes. We're not doing enough for Staunton to make housing affordable, nor to attract the kind of folks that we want to attract. I think we can do more, and that is basically it. And I think that this need runs across the spectrum of all socioeconomic backgrounds. So this isn't a need for one particular sect of our community, it's for all of us. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir.
Mr. Kester,
No, sir.
welcome.
Good evening, members of council. My name is Dave Metz. I live at 15 North Augusta Street. And I basically have spent a little bit of time in the last few days inquiring about the issue that you have in the background as far as the solar farm. I'd like to categorically state that I'm for this. But I would recommend that you, in the ordinance that you'll have to adopt 3 parts to that. Number 1 would be a performance bond. So, for example, if the developer proffers he's going to build a 25-foot segment around for screening, and he only builds it 10 feet, you've got some recourse on that. The second part of this is, I'm not exactly sure of what they would call it, but I'm going to call it the deconstruction bond. None of you are going to be there 20, 25 years from now when this thing plays out. And there is a limited life to these solar panels. So at some point, it's going to have to get deconstructed. We don't want to have an eyesore out there with a bunch of metal and frames that's just sitting there rusting away. So please force the developer to buy a surety bond or a deconstruction bond, whatever you want to call it, to make sure that the city is protected down the road. These people are going to make literally millions of dollars off of this thing. It's a small investment for them, and it's a huge investment for the city to require it. And I think the biggest thing is the fact that there's 2 other sites in Staunton that have the potential to be another one of these solar farms, because they're close enough to one of the substations for Dominion. So I think by adopting an ordinance that takes into that is very important. And lastly, probably to me is the most important, is put in the ordinance a requirement that they adopt the newer standards for the DEQ for stormwater runoff. This particular site is going to have over 50 acres of solar panels on it. That water is not going to have the opportunity to run straight in the ground. It's going to run off the panel and run straight down. And then it's going to run straight down to Lewis Creek. So instead of slowing down the water, in other words, when you build a new apartment building today, you have to put in stormwater detention so that it basically doesn't flow more than what it was originally. DEQ has adopted new guidelines that go into effect 2 years from now for these type of things. I think the city can adopt those newer guidelines right now, and I would encourage you to do so. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir.
Well,
This is fun. I enjoy participating. I got 3 things for you. Not related to, well, yes, there are. Okay, matters from the public. The reason folks might have to stay late if you all run late is because the public speaks last. If that's really what you all are all about, they should be first. Because dynamic boards that really want to reach and stretch and look for new and exciting things and problems that need to be fixed right away, they put that at the front of their agenda. They put what they want, the council would be the second types of things that would be listed on the agenda. And then the normal administrative things that the staff wishes you to accomplish that you are paid to stay late for should be last on the agenda. That's first recommendation. Gonna offer a suggestion to help cut some costs, maybe. How many pay windows does the city of Staunton operate? How many places do you come in and can you pay a bill? I think it's 3, right? Isn't there a water payment bill out in the city yards? And there's a water payment bill window here. And then there's a tax payment window. Don't we just need one pay window? Doesn't the treasurer have software that allocates where all the monies come and go and da 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 da? Couldn't we save a little bit of money by deleting 2 pay windows? Last thing, focus on 74. Promise you. But focus on 74. That's it. Thanks. Had fun. 74 cents tax rate.
Mr. Kessler? No, sir. Go ahead, sir.
I just wanted to use my minute and 30.
You get more.
Very educational. Hi, my name is Timothy Edward Kreider. I live at 808 High Street, the corner of High and Fraser. There's an alley behind my house. I'm gonna be 60 years old. I'm 90% disabled. I can't keep mowing your yard. It's the corner that comes up and goes along the hill. It goes up through there. I know that VDOT pays funding for maintaining the sidewalk, streets, and the whatnot. So I'm bringing that up. I would like somebody to come and take a look at the tree, since it is Arbor Award, whatever it was with Arbor Days. I've got a tree that would be, it's been 27 years I've been watching it. My charges went up 26%, which came out to about $704. Let's put that in perspective. That's the equivalent of one check from the VA for 40% disability. I've already got 2 neighbors that are talking about they can't, their own limited budget and price of natural gas has gone up so much in the last month that they're looking to sell just because they're gonna have to move on. So lots to look at. Apparently, since Virginia is a Dillon state, folks believe that they cannot lower the or exemption for the tax rate for veterans from 100% to 90%. I'd like to look at that a little further. The General Assembly can do it. Why can't we do it above and beyond? So, thanks for being here. I know it's long. Remember, every soldier and officer out there in the military works 24/7.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your service, sir.
Mr. Kessler?
No, sir.
Would anyone else like to speak?
My name is Dan Gunnels.
One time only.
One time only, thank you.
Sorry about that. Anyone else? In that case, thank.
Time to close session.
Yeah.
Have the motion or have paper copies?
We have to return to a closed session.
Mayor Clapp?
Yes, sir.
I move to